Today we are traveling back in time to the early 17th century when free and adventurous gentlemen decided to take a risk and make a leap into the unknown so they can discover a new world and find a place to call home. So we are in Jamestown, which is a reproduction of what Jamestown colony may have looked like. This is when Susan, Discovery, and Godspeed sailed, making this place the first permanent English settlement in North America. So let's discover together what's interesting about this location. On board to Susan Constant, the largest of the 3 ships to explore it, we stopped by a couple maps showing the road they take from England to Jamestown, and the journey was so intriguing. All 3 ships come together, they stay with each other while they are sailing across the Atlantic, and it takes them about 144 days to cross from London to Jamestown Island. Almost 5 months of travel. They don't spend all these days at sea because they do make a couple of stops on the way. But for the most part, they will be on the Atlantic Ocean. The only exception is the island of Nevis that has freshwater springs on land, which is gonna be where they take the only recorded bath.
This is called our traverse board, and if you're on a ship in 1607, odds are many members of the crew cannot read or write, or if they can, odds are many of them are not from an English-speaking country. They could be from Russia, from Spain, from Portugal, from Scandinavia, from the Netherlands. So if they have a logbook where they're keeping track of their observations and measurements in another language, well, that might not be very helpful to the navigator. So you can think of the traverse board as a sort of log for keeping track of these measurements and observations. Say a half hour, so it's 30-minute sand glass. It's difficult to keep track of time aboard a ship like this, especially prior to the invention of the chronometer, a sort of clock that would work on a ship. But it's still very important to our navigation to know how much time has passed, because we're using that in mathematic formulas to determine our distance traveled. So this is one such compass that you may have seen on a ship like this back then. This is called a mariner's compass or a box compass. Notice how it's mounted in this box on these gimbals, so it kind of acts like a gyroscope.
Okay, so as you are well aware, Morocco used to be part of the larger Islamic Caliphate states. Why are English people here in Virginia? What is the whole point?
To find a new land?
Find new land that will get us to Asia. Okay. Spain, they've already figured out to go around South America to get to Asia. Portugal, they go around Africa, past India, to get to Asia. The Ottoman Empire, time, that is part of the larger Islamic world. So, if you are an Englishman living in, late 16th century England, you want to be part of the larger global world, but more importantly, you're having England and the rest of Europe is trying to play catch up with what the Islamic world has already been doing since about 800 AD. Okay? Your average library in Morocco is going to be like 5 times larger than the largest library in Paris. Why? One of the core tenets of Islam is knowledge. To know is to be, part of your faith is knowledge.
We are committed to lifelong learning.
Exactly. If you stop learning, you stop believing.
Yeah.
So here we are trying to play catch up and stumbling a lot. So the written word. What are the most important things in Washington, D.C.? The actual physical handwritten documents that are the foundation of our government, the written word. So when you start embracing the written word and the preservation of knowledge, that is when you start being able to build and lift yourself up. So link between the culture that you are holding on to, and you're embracing a tradition that goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. And it's still a living history to you. My culture, you have to pay me to preserve it.
So, for example, if you had a soldier who was in a training exercise, there's an accident and the soldier gets shot, the surgeon will need to use a probe to locate the bullet, then use a pair of forceps to reach in and extract it. But it may not be that easy. You might get a bullet that gets lodged into bone. In that case, because the bullets are made of lead, and lead is softer than steel, use a drill called the cerebellum to bore a hole into the bullet and pull it out. You'll need to wash out the wound, use wax thread to suture, and you apply a bandage that has been soaked in wine or vinegar, maybe a form of sulfur, like oil of vitriol. It's called salve. If the wound is severe, though, you might have to make use of a cauterizing iron and apply heat directly to the wound. The most aggressive means of fighting infection was to burn it away.
To help increase the skull cracking power that the weapon's going to have. And then you also have the monocoque. It's definitely a wooden sword. Also modify your weapons, like I've done with this monocoque here. I've embedded a few stone spikes into it. Now, this is not something you see very often, because for the average paladin warrior, this is considered excessive. They don't need all of this. They can get the same job done with the weapon alone, plus all these spikes or other, attachments do cost time and resources to actually implement, which you may not have or be willing to invest. So for those reasons, most of us don't bother. All right. Feel free to pass this around as well. I would like.
Yes, it is.
Well, for dinner and supper.
Wow.
Or
Okay. It's right on the right hand, actually. Okay. And so they have.
I don't know.